It's almost December, and do you have a countdown calendar yet? Let's make a candy cane countdown using a laser file that's in my shop. Hello, I am Katie, the Crafty Blog Stalker, and if you're new to my videos, make sure to subscribe and ring that bell so you don't miss out on any of my upcoming craft tutorial videos. Here are all of the cut pieces of the design, and I cut this out using MDF, 1/8 inch MDF. But you could really cut this out of just about any material. The other supplies that we're going to use are some acrylic paints. I don't have a dark enough green, so I'm going to be using green and black, red, white, and brown. And then I've got a styrofoam plate to use as my paint palette, and I'm going to use some makeup sponges as well as a sponge brush. The glue I'm going to be using is the Beacon 3-in-1, and then I've got an awl and some black ribbon to hang it. I also put down some paper on my work surface so that I don't have to worry about getting paint on my countertop. Now the first thing we're going to paint is the base, and I'm just going to get some white. This is whitewash, and that's exactly what I'm going to do, is I'm going to give it a whitewashed look. So I'm going to put quite a bit of paint down, but then I'm going to add some water. This is just water in a little bottle to kind of thin it out a little bit. And I can just mix that up with my foam brush. And then we're going to paint that on, just lightly and in strokes. I want to be able to see the wood behind it. So I'm not going for a super even coverage. Now that looks good for our first coat, so I'm going to let that dry. And in the supplies, I forgot to mention a fine point. This is an ultra fine point Sharpie that we are going to use that. And while this is drying, I'm just going to go in and I'm just going to carefully color in these numbers. All right, now I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to go over it again with this second coat. Again, it's okay if my strokes show. Now to add a little bit more grain, I've got a darker brown, and this is a dry brush. I never clean this brush. This is what I use for wood grain. Just gonna pick up a little bit and dab that all off. And then I'm gonna use my paper here. And now I'm just going to create some more brown streaks. And that just kind of gives it that aged, whitewashed look. Now we're done with this base piece, so we can set this aside to dry. I'm going to take a long strip of painter's tape, loop it over, and then lay it down on my paper. And then I can stick my word pieces right on there to paint. And then when you're laying your letters down, actually spell the words, the days until, to make sure that you're painting the right side of the letter. So we're going to paint those pieces red, and we're going to paint the frame green. We're going to start with our green, and I think this green is a little dark, or a little light, I want it to be a little bit darker. So I'm going to add just a little bit of black just to darken that up. And I'm going to make enough so that I don't have to mix it again. And I'm going to take a makeup sponge. I love using makeup sponges for smaller areas to paint. I wouldn't use a makeup sponge for that background piece because that's just too big of an area. But it is perfect for little pieces. So now we're just going to dab this on to our frame. Now painting with MDF, you do want to be careful because MDF is basically just like paper. It's layered and layered paper. And if you put too much paint on there, it can begin to warp, just like paper would. So you don't want to have too much paint on there. So a little really does go a long way. So how much green paint I mixed is a ton. And that using that tape to hold the pieces really is a time saver. It makes painting them super quick. Now same thing, we're going to add 2 coats of the red as well, but we need to let it dry a bit first. All of our pieces are painted and dried, so now all we have left to do is to assemble. I'm going to move these up. I've got my glue, and I keep it in this old candle holder so I can always keep the glue at the end of the bottle. We're going to start with the frame. And we're just going to add a little bit of glue around that entire frame. And then we're going to line that frame up with the background piece. Now I totally forgot to use my awl. I have an awl so I can kind of help pick that paint out of that line to make it look like there's boards. I kind of waited too long because the paint is dry. But if you run that along, it just really helps emphasize the look of boards and getting that paint out of those pieces. But it's better to do when it's still wet. Then I'm just going to follow the outlines that's on here and add my pieces to the sign. And that outline is slightly smaller than the cutout, so you should be able to cover up that line completely. And then for the days until, I just start from the left and add each letter. Now we're going to let these glue pieces dry before we add the hanger. Now we're going to cut a length of ribbon about 24 inches long. And this is super fine ribbon, but you could really use anything probably up to about 1/2 inch. I'm going to tie knots at both ends. I'm going to do 2. Then I can trim that off. I'm going to turn my sign over, and this is where those 2 extra circles come into play. They are going to help secure our hanger. Got my hanger right where I want it, and I'm going to take a circle and I'm going to apply a good amount of glue and put that right over top the ribbon, right up to that knot. And I'm going to straighten out that ribbon and come to about the same spot on the other side and do the same thing. Now this glue needs to dry, I would say, for about 3 to 4 hours before you try and hang it from this ribbon, because you really want to make sure that those are good and stuck. But there is our finished sign. Isn't that so stinking cute? And here is another sign that I made. Now this one is all red. It doesn't have any green, but you can see how well those candy canes hang inside those circles. So what do you guys think? Do you like the all red? Do you like it better with the different Christmas colors? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Now, if you want more fun craft tutorials, make sure to visit my home base, thecraftyblogstalker.com. Thanks everyone. Bye and happy crafting.